Hello, I'm JarrettWebster, and my major is English Literature for UCF. First, to answer the discussion post question, my favorite text from this semester was Katai Tayama's Futon, which is that tutor story where the guy was like creeping on the student. I thought it was really interesting for a couple of reasons. I think there are often many times in literature that we read, especially in prominent classes, that we discuss taboos in great detail, but typically a text or a poem will only have a mentioning or a brief description or kind of only touch on a taboo rather than really expand and expound upon that kind of experience. And I feel like Futon by Tayama was much more drawn out, and there was almost a character study on what this taboo would look like. So I thought it was kind of interesting. Also, the Parasite film that won a couple of awards a couple of years ago also centers around this idea of this tutor relationship. And then another reference that I thought was kind of familiar in terms of a text that explores taboo was The Reader by Bernard Schlink, which has a similar kind of concept happening with reversed roles. The second question is my favorite literary movement or period that I found really interesting. I actually really did like the Taisho era, which one of the representative texts was The Tattooer by Junichiro Tazanaki, I think. I liked this kind of era because it's kind of hosted in modernism, and I'm just a really big fan of that kind of experimental writing and playing with voice and with kind of this metacognition that occurs a lot of times in writing. The particular text that for the representative thing, Tattooer, I liked it because of the magical realism that kind of happened towards the end. Of course, the story was a little bit rough reading, but the aspects or the techniques that were coming around I thought were really interesting, that they were being implemented so early and in a different continent across the seas. So and then the third question, what I would do differently with my research paper. I actually really enjoyed Yone Noguchi's stories from my Western life. I thought that was really interesting, specifically because I also took a Beat Generation course this semester, and I found that his kind of departure and his explorations around America and experiencing different kind of low life or marginalized kind of areas or groups of people was really interesting to follow, especially his experience that he had when he met a master poet. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but he talks about this poet was inspiring to him and made him want to be a poet and quit his job and then start just walking across America. So I thought that was really interesting. And I would probably do my research paper on Noguchi's work. I would compare probably my Western life with my London experience, which is just in and of itself a comparison between Western lives. And then I would also like to try and find some of his actual poetry, because he does talk about his inspiration of becoming a poet from America in that Western life story. And then I just wanted to share one quote. I know I'm over time, but one quote that I really liked from my London experience was, "It is the sadness of the age that we must have a reason, even for poetry," which I thought was really cool because I like the ideas that kind of came around in modernism time for poetry. When we think about, I think it's William Carlos Williams who wrote the Red Wheelbarrow, which at times is this famous modernist poem, which and altogether is just a simple poem that doesn't have really too much that's happening, over politically, over symbolically, but a lot of people have read into it and try to pin reasons or explanations onto this very simple poem of depicting a red wheelbarrow, besides a red barn or something with glazed water and chickens. So it's interesting that Noguchi also felt this sadness or this experience that everything needed a reason, even for poetry. So that is my final discussion. I'm over 5 minutes, and I really appreciated this semester, so thank you so much.